invited by the Manchester City Council to talk about my sort of successes as an artist, which took me back a little bit actually, and it made me think about the notion of success. So that's what I talked about in my speech. I'm 23 years old. I graduated a couple of years ago from Lancaster University, and I've sort of had my ups and downs since leaving. I've had one career path. I've decided to leave and follow my heart and actually do something a little bit more creative because I'm from a theatre background. And so that's just what I talked about, really, the kind of ups and downs and my experiences travelling and how that's influenced what I'm doing today.
Okay, so take us back a little bit and let's deal with the chronological story, the journey that you've been on.
Okay. So I was born in Manchester and I grew up here, but left at the age of 5 to go to Pakistan. And then we spent 4 years there, myself and my family, my dad and my mum. And then we moved to Indonesia, where my sister was born, and then Singapore and so on. We travelled around the world for about 12 years before coming back to the northeast of England, to County Durham. At that point, it was a massive culture shock for me. I just didn't know where I was from. I was having this sort of cultural identity crisis.
But you built up your air miles, though.
Yes, I definitely did. It was great. I got a trip back the following year to Singapore. So yeah, it was quite a challenging time for me, and I sort of started focusing on my education quite a lot, and started realising that that's something I'm really want to pursue properly, whilst keeping the creative stuff. So I went for a theoretical theatre studies course at university in Lancaster, and I finally started to kind of find myself. And the way I got involved and kind of cemented my identity into the community I was in was by getting involved in everything I possibly could. A, because I enjoyed it, but B, because I felt like I belonged finally. I was here to stay, and there was going to be no sort of uprooting and leaving. So
But you struck me as an incredibly proactive person. You kind of got involved in virtually everything that you could there.
Absolutely, everything I could and more. I was very, very busy working around the clock, but I think the important thing is I didn't do it for my CV. As I said, my second and third year at uni, I started thinking more strategically about what I was doing. But originally it was purely because I wanted to meet people, I wanted to have fun, and I wanted to explore who I was and what it was that I liked, because there was nothing I disliked. And I thought, well, I need to decide because I'm going to be graduating in a few years.
So you're very much the kind of person who follows her heart and needs to do something that she feels passionately about. And when you moved into the employment field, you found success, didn't you?
I did, yes. I went travelling, and then I came back to Manchester and moved in back with my family and thought, oh my God, this is horrendous. I need to find a job. So I spent the best part of 4 weeks sending out about 40 CVs and application forms and putting my heart and soul into them. And I got this job with this sales company who was sort of quite government-y based and sponsorship and that kind of thing. And it was great money. I was really good at it, but I just felt like it hindered my creativity. They're a great company and they were fantastic with me, but I just thought I can't be here. I need to do something else. And that's when I sort of made quite a bold decision and decided to sort of leave the money behind and go for something quite modest at a theatre. And there was an opportunity at the box office at Contact, and I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to take that. And as soon as I walked into the building, I just knew. And at the end of my interview with them, I was nearly in tears because I was so overwhelmed by the fact that I could be doing something creative again.
Now, this is the Contact Theatre on Oxford Road in Manchester.
That's correct, yeah.
How did your interviewer or interviewers feel about you leaving all this money behind to come to work for them?
Well, actually, funnily enough, they didn't ask me too much about that, but what I think was really obvious was the fact that there was no choice not to be in that building. I would be in there sweeping the floors. Now that I discovered them, I would be there every single day, so you might as well pay me to do it because I'm going to do my best anyway. So
But what I mean, were they sort of skeptical, or could they understand why you were leaving, the sales work behind to come and work there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know if you kind of have to be in that arts, they call it an arts bubble quite a lot, if you have to be in that bubble to kind of understand it, but there is this kind of longing to be in it, and when you leave, you just constantly miss it. You just want to be there again, whether it's just watching performances or popping in and out to rehearsals or helping make the business work behind the creative stuff. You just miss it, and I think I was kind of oozing in that desire, and they could really see that, and I had to do some sort of test phone calls to pretend customers, and it was them on the other phone.
It can't have been very hard for you, that, given your dramatic background, should we say, your drama background?
No, I really enjoyed it though. I did leave thinking, oh my God, I could have said this and I could have said that. But no, I really enjoyed the whole process. I think that's the point. I left like I just had a really good session, like I'd been paid to go somewhere and have fun for an hour. It didn't feel scary like I guess an interview should. It didn't feel intimidating. I just felt really happy and at home.
So what was it about the Contact Theatre that, so attracted you? Why there?
I still can't quite put my finger on it. And we talked before about USPs and what it is that makes a venue or a place or a business really stand out. It was just something about the energy of the building. And I know it's kind of one of those things that people in the arts talk about quite a lot, energy and this, that and the other. But I just felt this really great energy. There are absolutely sort of no cliques, no groups. Everything is welcoming and opening. They do a lot of outreach work and they absolutely believe in it to the core. Every single person believes in every single one of those values. And the values and mission statements are quoted nearly every staff meeting and every presentation because that is absolutely what we're about. And I say we, I'm part of that, and I felt part of that from the day I went to that interview.
But of course, values and mission statements are bound in business, but they're not lived out.
Yeah.
And you see them being lived out every day at the Contact.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, my personal beliefs have sort of changed. The way I view things have changed. Work with young people and young leaders. It's one of those things that, you always think, of course it's good to involve young people in decision making, but it's not until you actually get out there and you speak to people and you hear those testimonials and case studies and stories that you realise that, no, this is so important.
Now, you can't mention case studies and stories without giving us one.
Okay.
So give us an example of somebody or a group that you've helped.
Okay. Well, just to give a bit of context to the story, I talked to you in International Women's Day about another project I'm doing on a voluntary basis, which I've been doing for a year, which is about collecting stories from people around their integration, their experiences integrating into Manchester. So this one boy he's Kurdish, and he was sent over to the UK when there was quite a turbulent time at home, and he was sent over. He didn't speak a word of English, and he sort of came over and sort of underneath the truck. When I first asked him, when did you come over? How did you come over? And he told me. I sort of was knocked for six, and he said to me, he was sent to the school, he was learning English, and he said it was like being in prison for 6 months because he couldn't really communicate with anybody. And at the time, the artistic director was John McGrath at Contact. And he said his school were approached by Contact and they were doing this creative project together. And he said the first time he stepped in, he had this great ambition of always wanting to be an actor because he'd been inspired by Titanic as a young boy. And he wanted to be Leonardo DiCaprio. And he said, he walked in and everyone was fantastic and they did this workshop and he was the only kid going, I don't want to leave, I want to stay and do more. So at the staff meeting they said, well, okay, this boy doesn't want to go home, he doesn't speak much English. So they let him take down all of the flip chart paper from the wall and pile it up, and then he sort of came in regularly and started doing all this stuff. And John McGrath said to him one day, without saying his name, recognised him, and he was so happy that the artistic director recognised him and said, come see the show, you'll really like it. And he said, well, I can't afford a ticket, so he bought him his first ticket. And ever since then, the relationship has been ongoing. And 10 years later, he's still really connected. And he said to me, without Contact, he wouldn't be, he doesn't know what he'd be. He can't even imagine his life at all being a life. It would be like being in prison again. Sure. So that, really, it was quite an emotional time when he told me that story as part of this interview we did together. But he's just one of many. He really, really is one of many.
I don't normally do this, Tania, because I love to bury deep down into a story. But can you give us an overview of what the Contact does, just very briefly?
Yeah, Contact, it's a creative arts venue. We mainly do theatre, exhibitions, comedy, music, that kind of thing. But we also have a massive outreach programme, which is targeted at helping young people and developing leadership skills in young people and really supporting them through this process. Instead of a conventional education department, we have a creative development department, partly because of the types of young people we want to try and approach. It's not so much the case now, but sort of many years ago, we're still based in the same location, but we were in the middle of a lot of conflicting areas who wouldn't communicate, and there were sort of gangs and that kind of thing. And Contact was kind of this neutral ground where people could come. And over time, that reputation has helped. And young people, we've got this trusting environment where people can come in and be themselves and put down all of that angry stuff. And a lot of the outreach we do stems from that. And we just continue to do that kind of thing and going out there, helping young people through our programs like the Young Actors Company, which is free for a year. You join, you put on professional performances and you get these opportunities. But then we don't just say, okay, bye-bye, go do something else. There's then opportunities to actually get paid work, and there's a real nice progression route right through the age of 15 up until 30 where we really help people.
But in a more psychological sense, what impact is it having on the people who get involved? Just describe to us what it does for them.
Well, I'll talk about my experiences and what it's done for me, because I guess that's what I could talk about best, because I'm involved as an employee but also as a young person through this project I'm doing over the course of a year. When I came to Contact, as I said, I was sort of very enthusiastic. I just wanted to be in the arts, but I didn't have a clear idea of what it is exactly that I wanted to do. I think patience, really supporting ideas. I'd come out with some very wild ideas, sometimes say, why can't we do this and why can't we do that? Let's do this, without thinking about the fact that it costs money and it does this, and there's all these processes that need to be...
At least you're a creative thinker, though.
Well, yes, I guess, but I had to bring back down to earth. But I guess it was done and it is still done in a really, really caring and sort of nurturing environment where those ideas are kept, the essence of them is kept, and we try and realise them together as realistically as we possibly can, within the restraints that are put on through things like we're funded, of course we're a charity, but still, pushing the boundaries as much as possible. And just helping people be innovative. For me, it's really helped me as a person in the sense that I feel like I know what I want to do. If there's an area I want to be trained in, they'll help me train in that area. I'm always listened to. I never feel like my opinion goes away.
Sure.
I was at the board meeting on Tuesday with our trustees and they were listening to me, they were talking to me, and my opinion really mattered. And our board is made up of young people. Our recruitment panels are made up of young people as well. And so I guess it's just being listened to, really, really, truly listened to.
And we talk a lot at Mojo Life about finding your voice, because presumably the work that you're doing it allows people to express themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you've got the sort of creative dimension anyway, theatre and art, it's a form of expression, but we've also got things like the media lounge where young people can just drop in and it's a free session that we do and they can just make music and find ways to express themselves, and if they don't know how to use the equipment then we'll show them and we'll completely help them throughout the way. And that's how I feel I've been treated at Contact. I go into the creative development department all the time if I'm having sort of a difficulty, and I just say, you need to help me, I'm having this, and they'll just listen to you and just really support you, and there's mentoring programs and everything. So I feel like it's all rounded in every way.
So just finally, Tania, if you were to give some advice to, let's say, somebody thinking of going to university or in university, and they don't really know where they're going to go yet, what would it be? They've got no career planned out ahead of them. What would you say to them?
I'd say I still don't have my career path planned out, and I know people in their 40s who are so successful and who still don't know exactly what it is they want to be when they grow up. Just follow your heart. Don't think, I should do a psychology degree because that's where I got my great marks in. Think, I want to do an arts degree, I want to do fine art, and I don't necessarily, it doesn't matter to me that there's not a real clear career progression, but I know that I'll enjoy it, I'll love it, and I'll do the best I possibly can at that particular thing that I love. So I just say follow your heart and really just go for it.
Tania Mahmoud, thank you very much.
Thank you.